Hi, I'm Brandon Bronaugh, and welcome to another episode of The Transition Expert. Today's guest is Kate and George, who have been living in their home for over 20 years and are finally ready to downsize, but yet they have a lot of questions that they need to be answered in order to figure out the best transition for them. There's a lot of information that you're going to digest, so please stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Transition Expert. Today's guest is Kate and George. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good.
Sun's out.
Sun's out, huh?
Sun's out. That's a good day.
Yes, indeed. Listen, we're gonna have a great time talking today. Again, I thank you the two of you for joining us on The Transition Expert. The show is all about helping families that are going through real life situations and how they overcome those situations is an inspiration to all of us. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to go right into it and just talk to me about your current situation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we live in a house that's too large for our needs, and the work that's needed on the house will put us basically without enough money to pay, and we have to find another way of living. So we're looking forward to your potential.
Okay. So Kate, tell me about your current living situation.
She hears your voice and she thinks you're here.
Oh, does she?
What's going
Doesn't
on?
like men.
No, don't worry. Trust me, we're all in it together. All four of us.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
Now, so Kate, you and George have been married for how many years?
44 going on 40.
No, 20.
No.
1993.
No. 19. It's in the 40s.
In the 40s.
It's in the 40s. It's been a long time.
Now, where did you guys meet?
Dallas in 1978.
1978. Were you in the service?
Yes, I was a Marine.
You were in the Marines. Oh, wow. How many years were you in the Marines?
I was in for 3 years during the Vietnam War, and I loved boot camp, but I couldn't stand the politicization of the Corps. It became too who you know and how well you butted up to them.
Got it. And Kate, what was your profession?
I'm a bookkeeper, tax professional. Been doing it for about 30 years. Had my own business, and I retired at 2009, and have been trying to organize the house since then. So when I called you, it's been several years I've been trying to get this under control, and I was asking for help. At some point in time, you reach a point in which you just have to ask for help, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. And truly, you need it mentally. You need it. So when I called you, you had ways of getting us to transition into a retired environment instead of the house being the business and the clients coming in and going out. It was a busy house.
The interesting thing about retirement is that I think people retire from work, but they don't really necessarily retire in their living environment.
That's true.
Downsizing is more than just a mental thing; it's a physical thing as well. And that basically affects you emotionally. You still function in a home as though you're working a 9 to 5, and in some cases, though you still bringing in the 9 to 5 earnings, you when you retire, a lot of the financial advisors are now starting to teach their clients how to immediately downsize, because statistically speaking, people downsize 5 to 10 years later, if they're fortunate, once they retire, rather than once the retirement kicks in. Let's start downsizing in the first 2 or 3 years, which should be the more ideal direction. Um, what brought you guys to the Cape? Because it sounds like you're originally from the New Jersey area, if I'm not mistaken.
New Jersey originally, both of us, and then we lived in New York. And the area in New York we lived in just couldn't support a 40-hour work week. So we packed up and headed off in the northern direction.
The northern direction.
We saw a sign for Cape Cod and said, hey, okay, my sisters went there when they were young. Why not? What can we lose? Well,
there was a blizzard.
We've been here for a year.
And we spent some time up in Provincetown in the dark.
Really?
In a hotel
with 2 dogs.
Wow. So you guys
And
are
I had a broken
adventurous.
leg. I had a fractured foot, so I was in a cast and on
Wow.
crutches.
What year would you say this was? Was this in the 70s, the 80s?
Yeah, in the 80s.
87.
87?
Yeah, 86, 87.
So let me get this right. No family in the area, and it's just the two of you guys. You decided that you were just gonna take that leap of faith. Were you guys still working at this point?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We were both still healthy.
So-
I hadn't had any diagnosis. I wasn't involved in the VA at all. Kate was healthy after after her ankle healed. So we just came and went roaring at it. I know several trades. Fortunate of living a Marine, get to see and do a lot of different things. And I learned and I followed my passions. One is construction, the other is artwork.
So how did you do in terms of art? Tell me about your profession, your passion, because I've heard you and I've seen and witnessed a lot of your work, and you do some remarkable work. What's it like being an artist in the Cape?
It's tough here because of the number of artists. And here again, we enter into the who do you know? Or do you have $20,000 to put on a show?
Hmm.
We put on our own first show when we bought this house. That's 1993.
That was a lot of fun. Moving into a house,
No help.
putting a show on at the Geyer Barn.
And that's how I started. But I was born an artist. I was drawing when I was 4 years old, successfully.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's in my bones. I went to art school in Manhattan for 6 years, and I've been through a lot of mentors and artists that I admired and trained with them. And I finally went out on my own with the East Ham Painters Guild, and I sold 1 or 2 paintings in 5 years. And I said, that's not economically proper.
So how did you make a living? What was your main source of income for you two?
Construction for me, bookkeeping and taxes for Kate.
George did a lot of work for moving companies. When they drop something and they break it, George fixed it.
I restored
furniture,
antiques and new.
So you're a fabricator?
Somewhat, yeah. You've done projects.
Oh.
Yeah, I design and build things.
Nice.
I do more designing than I do building.
Yeah.
Well,
it's in the head,
right.
It's
you are definitely a godsend to a lot of moving companies, because I know there's a lot of A lot of accidents, a lot of breaks, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. They were glad to pay me, and I made a good living off of them. And then doing construction and renovations and painting and cleaning windows. I'd take almost any job that involved the word construction. So,
We had a business called Uncle Jason's Window, and we did window washing. Well, it
Really?
was our first example of trying to get people to work for you, to care about the property that they were working on. Oh, it was so difficult. We had it for about 2 years and we decided, yeah, too much liability. We
Oh
couldn't do it.
gosh.
But we had people call us back again, like 2 years later, and ask if we were still in business because our windows were still clean. So we did a really good job.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people would probably attest that you guys are just great people. I mean, I had a privilege in doing our assessment to sit with you guys for 3.5, 4 hours. I mean, and didn't really feel like it when I got in the car because I mean, you guys are just really wonderful, warm-hearted people. And I wish there was more people like you around. I'm sure there are, but having an opportunity to meet with you guys was a complete joy of mine.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
That's very kind.
So let me ask you a question. When you bought the house in '93, you said,
Yeah.
was it a fixer-upper?
It was
Well, as it
distressed.
distress, that's right.
It was distressed. Okay, so it's
We
similar.
were distressed, and it was physically distressed. And I said, "Well, I can fix anything."
Oh,
And I found that out eventually that I can't. I knew the techniques, but I simply couldn't put them in action again. I did this all alone. Kate was busy with her bookkeeping and tax preparations,
mhm.
but that's how we got here.
Well, the interesting thing about people who are in a particular profession is that they don't always put themselves first too. I mean, if you look at any barbers out there, a lot of times they don't always have their hair cut because they're busy making everyone else's, making everyone else look gorgeous and attractive. And then you look at a mechanic; he's always driving a putt putt around. My grandfather was a contractor, and he's been in the field for over 55 years, but you go to his house, it wouldn't appear to be because he always started projects, but he had a difficult time finishing it. What I
Yeah, we
think,
know that.
yeah, so what I'm
Don't
looking
do
at,
that to me. Don't don't do that to me. She gets
no,
really upset with that. There's a
I'm,
lot of things I haven't finished.
well, that's why they call it a honey-do list because eventually you will do the list.
Year after year after year.
After year. I know, but you know what compounds that to his defense is he's an artist.
Yes, it
And
is.
the artist in him and the structural savviness in him, those are two worlds that are often fighting each other. I've been in this space for 13 years and I've transitioned thousands of clients, and the ones that I've seen that run into a bit of a climax, if you will, is that are the ones that are artists, because artists have a very unique way of seeing things visually, but actually having it come out in actuality. Did you find that your vision of things didn't always come out the way you wanted it to?
That's you.
I'm sorry, that was me?
No, I was asking George, as an artist, did you find yourself starting some of these projects and having a vision on what you wanted the outcome to be, but unfortunately it not necessarily manifesting itself the way you intended?
Well, you saw our kitchen um, yesterday. I designed that, and I acquired the cabinets that you didn't like so much.
All
uh,
recycled. The whole
All
kitchen
recycled.
is recycled.
yeah,
Cabinets, countertop, the
it's just the
soapstone sink.
faucets. The faucets were
Yeah, we
done,
had to
but
buy the faucets.
everything that wasn't recycled was handmade out
Mhm.
of recycled construction materials. And I was able to do the things you saw, but that's about the closest one I got in all the rooms of the house.
Got it. I've toured the entire house, and I also saw the back, the garage area, which I believe from Kate, she explained to me that that was once your workshop. And just to give you a visual, there's a workshop in the back of the house, but then in the back there's also two incredibly large trailers or pods, if you will, where Kate, I believe, is storing things from a previous business, but there's also things that maybe Kate, you and George were working with in terms of thrifting and selling and repurposing at one point or another. But Kate did explain to me or share with me that there were some health issues that sort of prompted or delayed a lot of those things, or halted, if you will, you from being able to do that. Do you mind sharing with us, those health issues that you're experiencing?
Well, George, let's see, 2011, I was out of town doing QuickBooks seminars. And when I came home, our friend who was living here with us, George had pain in his chest, and he went out and got him an aspirin. Then that night, early in the morning, because it usually happens, then his heart attack happened.
Oh, wow.
And we had the EMTs, absolutely wonderful people in Eastham. The EMTs were great. And they got George to the hospital. He got in. He was awake. Weren't you awake
Right.
when they were putting the
Yeah.
stents in?
When
He
they were
actually
doing that.
saw them putting the stents in.
I would have passed out, George. You're a strong guy.
It was amazing how they cared for him. And then 2.5 years ago, George wound up with lung cancer. And again, the Davenport Mulgar Cancer Center at the Cape Cod Hospital, excellent people. They took a very large tumor and brought it down to tiny little bit. So the surgeon didn't have to do a lot of excavating in his body to get it out. And we've been healing from that. So his time up and about and doing things is limited to about 20 minutes at a time. Then he has to sit back down. So that delays a lot of things going on. And, I called you because I couldn't do it myself. It's too big of a project to do myself.
So Kate, are you George's primary caretaker these days?
Yes, I am his caretaker.
Well, tell me, what's it like for you to be a caretaker for George? I mean, obviously you love George;
Well,
he's an excellent guy. But what's it like for you mentally and emotionally, and
Yeah.
physically?
physically, there's cooking. You have to create 3 meals a day. There's shopping to get the food to do that. Um, there, there's medicine that has to be done weekly, and then also prescribed, re-upped in a timely fashion to where he always has it. Blood pressure, temperature, taking his vitals, keeping track of it, and just being there for when he needs you. Sometimes it's just holding your hand gets the pain away.
Life cycle sort of encompasses and embodies that nature of how we adjust to change. Life cycle clients range from the son or daughter taking care of the affairs for their mom or dad, from a recent retiree anticipating getting their house ready for sale and all the hassles and hurdles that they're going to have to take a home that's been in the family for 30, 40 years, or to a client that maybe struggled with hoarding, and don't quite know who to call or how to call to get help. We're the family when the family isn't there. Whether it's just too much of a daunting task for your loved ones or yourself to handle, you contact us. We answer the call, and they're definitely the solution for you.
It's not always the medication that will take pain away. Being with
Right.
a loved one and being with them and caring for them is so important. It takes a lot of time.
And if I may interject, you also need to maintain your sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, George.
Really
Oh, yeah.
important
Yeah, that one.
after you have cancer surgery, because it is painful to recover from. I'm not trying to scare people. You get surgery if you need it, because they have techniques today that are less invasive than they've ever been. So her taking care of me could have been worse if they used an older method of curing the tumor.
Mhm.
But radiation therapy took the tumor down from 6 inches to 2.
Now, are you in remission right now, or I mean,
Yeah.
what's what
He's
was that?
cancer free. 2.5 years.
Cancer-free.
Two
Well,
and a half years.
congratulations, George. I mean, that's a blessing.
I'll be going for the cancer test in another month to
Yeah.
see if I'm maintaining, and if that's the case, then I've got a better chance of having beaten it, because it is a tough thing to avoid all the dilemmas that can affect your lungs with COPD. And once you have a heart attack, you're an open date
No,
for another one.
now it's interesting that you mentioned that. I've been in this space for, like I said, over 13 years, and um, the EPA has already done independent studies about indoor pollutants and how the indoor pollutants are at an all-time high. That people living in these environments are now suffering from pulmonary, diseases, and COPD at the top of that spectrum. Having these environments that people are living in is often compromising or exasperating some of those symptoms. What would you say how would you say the living environment in terms of where you guys are currently living, is it conducive to George's health, or do you think it's making it that much more challenging or trying to sustain there?
More challenging.
Yeah, that's a kind of a blame thing. And the surgeon said you can't put a blame on anything. If you smoked a cigarette, you got cancer. If you
Yeah,
live today and you went through a city, you got cancer.
right.
You might, if you were out in the ranch lands and you didn't come in contact with cars and buses and other people, you might have a chance of
Mhm.
not getting cancer. But you're going to get it.
As you saw, we live right on a 4-lane highway, and
Yeah,
it's an old house, and there's no way to keep those vapors from the cars and trucks, because we got big 18-wheelers up through here, just like any other normal place.
Main thoroughfare.
But the noise, which is bad for me, the CO2, the CO from the cars and trucks, we're getting both diesel and ethanol poison, is what it seems like.
Now, are some days a little bit more challenging? Have you been able to look at certain exposures and determine, like, maybe when I'm out and I'm dealing with the pollen, or certain things are worse for George from a respiratory standpoint?
Pollen is definitely it. When it blooms on the Cape, it's like waves of green stuff. And
Mhm.
just covers cars, covers the sidewalk. I mean, it's everywhere. And we used masks uh, when we were outside, and that actually helped a little. But when you took the mask off, the green was on the inside.
Mm,
So it lessened it. It didn't stop it completely,
got it.
you know.
Now, what's your family dynamic at this point? The two of you, you don't have children, I understand, right?
We
No,
don't have relatives.
we don't have relatives.
We
are
outlived
free.
everybody.
What's it? I mean, obviously there's some pluses and minuses by not having, family, especially family that maybe you weren't the closest with. What are some of your biggest fears at this point in your life, though, being that it's just the two of you?
One of us dying, and the other one left alone. We've been to we have only been separated for about, how
Three
many
days.
times have I been? Yeah, about 3 days. Other than that, we've been together the whole 40 years. So it's going to be for the person who's alive, which I have always thought the person who dies doesn't have a problem. They're dead. Not a problem. They're fine. It's the person who's still living that has the problems. They have to go on without you. They won't see your face in the morning. They won't be there to get a hug or a little kiss just for fun of it.
Right.
So that, to me, the person who lives after the other person has gone in our particular thing is going to have a really difficult time of it, both mentally, emotionally. So I was wanting to get into a position to where we would be able to live as one without as much trauma and drama about it when the other one passes.
So that leads me to my next question. What is your ultimate goal at this stage in your lives? What's the most important thing, and what would be a desired situation, a living situation, and everything involved with that? What would be the most ideal for you guys at this point?
Finding a smaller home we can afford in a better temperate zone because it gets chilly up here, and I have fibromyalgia to add to the list of maladies, and fibromyalgia hates the cold, and so I have a hard time in winter here now. Again, before the heart attack, everything was fine, but now it's gotten to where I'm sensitive to everything. You saw the pollen on our brown car yesterday when you left.
Yeah, that's great.
It wasn't a brown car anymore.
No.
When you mix yellow with brown, you get yuck.
You get young.
Artistically speaking, I think it's officially yuck.
So, what would be an ideal situation for you, Kate?
I'd like to be in a rural town under 10,000 people.
Okay.
That way I get to know my neighbors, and once one of us passes, there'll always be somebody in town that would be friends. And so a little cabin, an English cottage, something with a garden, something smaller than our 2,100 square feet. Uh, it's difficult to keep up with and keep all the little pieces where they belong.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is there any specific states that you guys have in mind? Did you consider? Did you narrow those, your locations down to one or maybe two states?
We got it narrowed down to Virginia,
Okay.
and Virginia Beach looks like there's a lot of senior towns for senior citizens areas, and they're not too far from the VA hospital. So we found some nice areas, but we're still working out the zip codes.
Got it.
We
Now,
got it. We have a globe, and we went between the 30 and the 40 degrees on it. So it went from Virginia to Colorado, that whole swap across the middle of America. And so we decided that Virginia probably would be it. And Virginia Beach has a low crime rate.
now, do you guys have any concerns or issues about your finances?
No,
Did you guys
not
save
really.
accordingly?
No, we're where we're supposed to be financially. Um, to completely renovate the house to where it is the Architectural Digest house.
Mhm.
would take quite a bit of money, and we would not be able to afford that. So downsizing now when we're in our early 70s makes a lot of sense, so that we have, 10 years or more of relaxation. That's what we're supposed to be doing. You work 45
Absolutely.
years, you're supposed to relax the rest of the time, not have to deal with renovators and contractors and people who don't show up.
Right. So I mean, you don't have. It doesn't sound like you have an emotional attachment necessarily to staying in the Cape at this point. And like I've had with a lot of clients that are adamant, I want to stay in a particular town or in a particular home to be for next to grandkids or whatever the case may be. There's nothing at this point that you feel is really sort of holding you guys down there. Would you agree?
Mm-mm,
No,
we're just free.
our obligations in town as good citizens have all been addressed. We've
Yeah.
both been part of community
We've been
volunteerism. We helped with a television station to get grown on the high school, that they now have a commercial television station, but it's not at the high school anymore. But we helped start the place. So I did my first production there for video, and I ended up being a producer.
And then I produced a show there and wound up being their treasurer.
And
Nice.
So, and that lasted for about 7 years. And
That's a good run.
that was a good run.
she
know?
monthly episodes for 7 years.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, it says a lot about your devotion and commitment.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question, or not question, but the statement that where we're at now. As a transition company, we've been doing this for over 13 years, and we've transitioned thousands of clients in situations like yours. I've had those conversations with clients that when we're walking through the home and we're doing the evaluation assessment, and
We just lost
Your
sound.
sound lost.
hold on one second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So sorry about that. Yeah. So what I was saying is I've had those conversations with clients as we walk through the home, and they call you in for one thing, and it's usually, let's see about making this home, sustainable, and just get rid of these odds and ends. But it's always it's a interesting dynamic change or shift when they go from thinking that they're going to do one thing to seeing and understanding the possibilities of multiple things and being able to see themselves in a totally different environment. It's a hard thing for them to digest. Um, and a lot of times it's come on when we're walking and talking about the neighborhood, and that neighbor they're talking about passed on, that neighbor's in a nursing home, that neighbor there sold their home, and this one here, and so on and so forth. And all of their immediate family unfortunately passes on. I remember my mom telling me when I was younger, after the age of funeral, you tend to go through a lot of funerals. You don't begin to realize that so many people have passed on until you get to a point where you realize that unfortunately you're the last one. And in a case like yours, you guys are in your early 70s. You've probably had your fair share of loss and experiencing those situations. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Friends
Yeah,
and
yeah.
family.
And it
You
all
know,
happened around the year 2000.
wow. So
It-
in the last 20 years, right?
yeah. So that was when he lost his mother. That's when I lost my mother and my stepfather. So,
We lost the
you
end of
know,
our line, both of
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And I'm at the end of my line for my family. And I haven't been able to reach or contact anyone. I don't think anyone's left alive from that era. Maybe second or third cousins, but I don't even know them. They're too young.
Your needs and your wants change. I mean, as we get older, we have to respond to that. the worst thing to do is what I always advocate my clients not to do is to be reactionary. You want to be as proactive as possible, being pragmatic if you need to be when it's important to do so is going to keep you in a safe place, not waiting too long, because this is just the two of you. So if something were to happen, we look at the trajectory from a health standpoint, and unfortunately, men pass away before women do. And George has some health issues, so one would assume that something can happen to George, but we don't know that. It can be the other way around. Caretaker burnouts is a real thing, and you're taking care of him, but somehow along the lines, your health begins to decline. What's important is that we keep this. What's important is that the option of keeping the two of you together as long as possible, for as long as humanly possible, is the top priority. But equally important is to put you in an environment that allows for you to get the most longevity and to lessen some of that emotional, physical, and mental burden that you would put yourself through to stay in an unsustainable environment. And when I walked through your home, that's what I foresaw. I saw the plan that you had initially, Kate, in mind, and what you were looking to do. You wanted to renovate the house. You wanted to do odds and ends. You wanted to deal with the massive transitioning of downsizing and getting those two pods and getting the garage emptied. And that was a great plan, but unfortunately, it's hard to really see it from a different lens unless someone from an outside that you can trust and you can sort of depend on and rely on can come in and give you a different outlook or a different perspective. And I thought that was my gift to you, is to come in and then look at your situation and say, okay, this makes sense, that doesn't, maybe you can do this differently. I want to explore all the possible avenues, which is why, as a transition company, our focus is to equip our clients, equip them with all the possible information that they can digest.
Was there a recent death in your family? Do you feel imprisoned in your home due to clutter? Or have you recently fallen on hard times financially? Have you thought about renovating, or are you too fed up and simply want to sell your home and relocate? Let Lifecycle Transitions help you evaluate the true nature of your home and living requirements to help you decide whether to ditch it or fix. Our team of transition experts will alleviate your anxiety by going through every meticulous step with you, from renovating to selling your home. We will even help you find a new home for you if need be. Our team of local carpenters, realtors, and appraisers will ensure every measure is met and accurately completed within our 30-day guarantee. We'll make your problem our priority by completing your unique transition in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cash. Take a look at our digit or fixed package options, and if this sounds great, give us a call and schedule your transition assessment today.
Option A, for instance, you want to stay in this home. Here's what staying in the home is going to look like financially. Here's what it's going to take to make the house adequate, so that it's efficient, so that it's durable, so that things don't fall apart. And here are the things that are likely going to fall apart. And here are the things aesthetically, and here are the cosmetics. Here are the luxury items that make being here more comfortable and less oppressive. And outlining that repair in the evaluation as option one. Option two is, what's fair market value for the home? What is the house across the street selling for if we were to put and make this house market ready, meaning that when we put it on the market, it's going to pass home inspection, it's going to appraise for the value that it's worth. You're not going to have a situation where you get a purchasing sales from a buyer that says, I'm going to pay you this amount contingent upon me doing an inspection of the septic tank, the electrical, the plumbing, the foundation, and then finding out that all of these things are red flagged, and then a week before the closing, you think that you got a deal, and the worst thing happened is the buyer bags out, and meanwhile you got your entire house packed and boxed up. I've experienced that with my clients. I've seen clients go through it. It's very painful. It's very emotionally draining and physically demanding to be in a position where you got your entire life collapsed and purged with the contingency or the idea that you're going to be making a change or a transition, and that transition isn't going to come or isn't going to occur because the red flags on the buyer and they renege on the deal, or they offer you something that was well below what you expected, and now you can't afford to make the next move in your life, because many of my clients are transitioning from their current living situation into a new situation based on what they get for their home. Their home is their number one asset, and knowing what they're going to get for that and what they get for that makes a big difference in the trajectory of where they go moving forward. So, option two is, the house across the street sold for this amount. This is what you need to put into it. This is going to protect you and insulate you from any unforeseeable surprises. That's involved in the evaluation option. That's involved in the evaluation assessment, so that you know exactly what you could do if you had the time, money, energy, and resources. Now, option three is the home rescue program, which was designed 8 years ago for clients that don't have the time, money, energy, or resources, that need assistance with locating a property and finding a property, doing virtual tours, scheduling tours, getting an idea from a budgetary standpoint what you can afford, so that we're only focusing our efforts with our trained technicians, our trained experts, at finding the home that meets your needs, whether from an environmental standpoint, geographical limitations, or just because you want to be next to the water and you want to be able to fish. That's what we're going to be focusing on. But also taking a home that you've been in for over 20 years and completely purging and collapsing it, meaning that we're going to go through the containers that are in the backyard. We're going to go through the shed, the basement if you had one, the attic, every closet. We're going to separate, sort, organize, haul away things, donate things, try to sell things, and then find you a new place, get the property sold for what it's worth in its current condition. And we're going to do this in 45 days or less, if the home rescue program is something that you guys wanted to consider. So the point is, as a transition company, I've been doing this for 13 years. And the reason I'm a transition expert is that I've looked at all of my clients over the years in all of these different situations, and I've figured out a way to help any and every one of them in any option they still wish to choose to pursue. Based on what we've talked about, you got a lot of answering, you got a lot of decisions to make. When I left you guys yesterday, can you share with the audience, what was the emotions that you were going through? What were you processing when I left? What did it feel like?
There's a lot coming down on the head.
There's a lot, right?
A lot coming down. My expectations, you brought me down to reality. And George was saying, thank you. I had a different reality than what is actually a reality.
Right.
So
it's a lot. So, I mean, tell me what was the first thing that you thought about, George? I mean, and I'll let you finish, Kate, as well, because I think there's some other things that you wanted to express. But George, what went through your mind after we've had our evaluation assessment yesterday?
Do you want the truth?
Absolute truth.
Okay. I was curious, dubious, concerned about what you offered, but you showed the signs of an honest man. You knew your dialogue. You knew all what you had to say, and you captivated my mind. It's too good to be true, because it's like everything I've wished for. Because the disability changes the way you think. And so I'm cautious, but you seem trustworthy. And that's a big thing.
Well, thank you, George. And be honest with you, knowing you and meeting you has been an extremely exciting experience. I mean, you're a very down to earth, very straightforward person. I mean, there's no guffing between you. You've also explained to me that you expressed to me that you're an introvert. You're not the kind of person that goes out your way to say things out of nicety. You prefer to be alone. And what I realized is, here's a person that isn't the most outwardly trusting of people. You're not distrusting, but you want to know the facts. I've been doing this 13 years. I host a show on television called Hoarders. But my title is a transition expert. And the reason that is because I'm about helping people deal with life changes, and life and changes occur to all of us at different points in our lives. Whether it's a death, it's a divorce, it's an illness, a disability, or something happened financially and you lose your job or you have to make a change. I answered those calls, and upon doing so, I learned a lot from people like you. I've learned what worked, what didn't work. It was trial and error, and upon doing so, I've been able to perfect our ability to offer that services. We're the only company out here that focuses on taking your situation for all the uniqueness, all the ups and downs, all the turns, all the valleys and peaks, and figure out a way to minimize the stress, but also give you something that's fully customizable to what you're looking for. House shopping isn't a complete science. Anyone that's ever had to buy a house, you always look for these criterias, and then you end up narrowing down to, okay, I can't get that gigantic pool in the backyard, but maybe I can compromise that for this glorious basement that's here. And that's kind of what happens in my line of work, is that we sit down, and during the evaluation process, when we onboard you, we're going to analyze all your wants and needs. And then we're going to see all the pluses, and we're going to look at your finances and look what you can afford. And as we go down there, we're going to find that in Virginia, these are the options that we have to choose from, that you want, based on wanting to be near the water, wanting to have this much of space or be this separate. One of the things that George mentioned to me is that you wanted some distance between you and your neighbors. Is that still a priority of yours?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
He plays guitar, and the amp is up quite a bit. So I know that we couldn't be in an apartment because we'd have neighbors banging on the wall.
Mhm.
So we have to be someplace in which the music isn't going to interrupt anybody's
Got
day.
it. And,
Because
and
I
that's
don't
kind of
play guitar very well,
That's it.
and it's atrocious to your ears. And it's not. Oh, it may be your ears, but everybody else. No, it's atrocious. It's a sin that I worked 3 years on the guitar and still don't have it down.
oh gosh.
But
So
it
they say
helped
don't
him
quit your
to
day job, huh?
transition from the surgery. It gave him something to get up out of bed and do.
Right.
It got him into life, the guitar. I don't care what it sounds like, just as long as he's in life.
No, no, that's listen, what my focus is all about saving lives and changing them. In some cases, the living environments are as such where it's endangering individuals, and in others, it's just about change. And in your case, I just want to do my part with being able to help you change your situation to a better situation that's more conducive, not just for today, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And then we put those critical indicators in place. If God forbid something were to happen to either one of you, the other person would be okay, because I know that's a big concern for even George. If George were to look and say, I know, George, you wouldn't want, Kate to be in an environment that if something were to happen to you, that you would have to worry about her. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, and the sense that if something happened to me, I couldn't worry about her. But,
Obviously.
um, the, the truth is that I worry about it in advance. I'm already concerned about her well-being should anything happen to me. The VA promises to take care of her, but I don't think it's anywhere near the income we make right now,
Mhm.
for my disability, because I'm 100% disabled. And I have to worry about that. And Kate has her own opinion.
Yeah, again, as I had said before, it's the touching and the hugging and having that person there with you, having somebody to yell at.
Right.
It's just wonderful.
Oh,
George is like,
Yeah, you
I
got,
can do
yeah,
without that.
you got to really, we've been together for such a long time. To separate us, it'd be like taking a hammer to a rock and expecting it to crack in two pieces. We're one. And so I have been thinking a lot about end of life, I will say. I've been reading some things about it, and I have also been talking to women in town that had lost their husbands and how they coped with it. It is one thing here that I have experienced. Eastham has more 80-year-old widows than any place I've ever lived. They're
Oh, wow.
healthy, they're active, they're volunteering. It's amazing how they changed and adjusted their life without their spouse. So I kind of look up to them,
Mhm.
thinking, okay, I can make it. I can do this. It's possible. And the men here too, of course, they like fishing mostly of anything. When
It's an
when they
official
lose
day
their
off.
wife, when they lose their wife, they go fishing. I mean,
How they go?
Actually, when the bass run, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
yesterday,
Yesterday.
is the
Oh, okay.
opening bass run, you're allowed to take off work to go fishing almost all over the outer Cape.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a tradition, huh?
Yeah.
almost all employers are stuck with that commitment to at least give you 1 day a week to go fishing. People want 2 or 3 because when the bass run, the tuna
Yeah.
run.
Oh, okay. So
I've
they,
never seen a guy pull a tuna fish in from a back of a boat
It's
with a
huge.
rod and reel. It is dynamic. 900 pounds of fighting mean fish. And they
wow.
drag them into our docks, weigh them, and sell them. And they're done with them. And then some people cut them up and spread them around their friends. But you do get days off for fishing. It's a funny kind of an oddity.
Another perk of living in the Cape, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, you guys were great. And just to bring things home, we're going to take care of you guys. We're going to put together a very comprehensive evaluation assessment that's going to explore all the options that we discussed. Option 1, staying in the home, here's what it's going to look like. Option 2, here's what, putting this house on the market and getting you transitioned, you're looking at. And option 3, the home rescue and what that includes. I want to make sure that you guys have all the information so that we make sure you don't get taken advantage of and that you get the utmost service and that we hold you guys' hands from A to Z. In an ideal, perfect situation, I want to see you guys thrive, not just survive. So at this point, I'd like to thank you for being the guest on the Transition Expert and another wonderful episode. And for all the viewers that are watching in today's episode, when it's more than a change, it's a transition. And when it's time to make that change, you can contact the Transition Expert. Thank you guys so much again for being on the show. Stay tuned. We're going to get that evaluation started, and we're going to see you guys and the guests that are watching, the viewers that are watching today's episode. You can stay tuned because, in a couple of months or 3 months from now or 2 months, however that is, we're going to give you an update on whatever happened to George and Kate. All right.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes, we'll have an update.
Before you channel off, what channels does your program air?
Well, the podcast is going to air on all the major podcast state channels. Whether you go to Apple or you go to YouTube, or you can just Google us at the lifecycletransitions.com. You'll have a direct link that goes directly to the podcast, so you can view it from there as well. You guys are going to have obviously a copy of this episode, so you can watch and see how lovely the two of you guys looked online. But again, from the bottom of my
vanity, come on.
no, listen,
that's out the window.
You're not looking at my monitor. You said 70. I thought you guys were definitely in your early 40s over there. You guys are looking really good. Looking real good. Listen, from the bottom of my heart, I really thank you two so much, and I'm so excited to have met you, and I'm looking even more excited to the future of helping you guys transition to the next move in your life. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
Have a list of things we're looking for.
And we have a picture of a house.
Whoa. I wish we can blow that up right now so we can see it. Okay. So that's the move, right?
That's the move.
All right. Well, that's what we're headed for. I give you my word that whatever you're looking for, if it's out there, we're gonna find it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So thank
Right.
you so much.
Oh, you're welcome,
You're
Brandon.
welcome.
Thank you for.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. All right. Thanks, guests, again for tuning in, Kate and George, and also for all the viewers that have watched the episode. Please tune in to our next episode of The Transition Expert. Bye now.
Bye-bye.